Welcome, everyone, to the Leadership in Quarters podcast, the interview series where leaders come to share their perspectives on different leadership topics. I'm Josh Seldin, and today's guest is Alison Kermode. Alison Kermode is an author, keynote speaker, and corporate growth strategist who helps organizations achieve extraordinary success by aligning their most powerful resource, the energy of their employees. Having over 25 years of corporate experience, Alison spent 15 years of her career leading the marketing and communications efforts for a national company. During her tenure, she was promoted to a senior vice president of the firm and was instrumental in helping the company grow from $200 million to $1.3 billion. While Alison was excelling in the corporate world, she spent over 2 decades studying with some of the most renowned awareness leaders in the world and was inspired to create a revolutionary corporate training program to help companies shift their cultures through energetic awareness. This training series is the first of its kind and has been featured in hundreds of online publications, including Forbes. Alison has also been recognized as a woman of influence by the Los Angeles Business Journal. So welcome, Alison.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me. This is an absolute honor.
I'm so excited to have you, and I'm excited for everybody to hear about personal energy and heart-centered leadership, because I feel like it's something that is there. Nobody really fully understands it and talks about it. So I'm glad you're here to talk about it today.
That's so funny you say that because I often explain that energy is everywhere and yet we never talk about it. So yeah, I'm glad that I get a chance to talk about it on your podcast. Truly
Yes.
appreciate this.
Same here. So yeah, if we can get started, and I think we both led into this already, energy is there. We all have our own energy fields. How do we explain the direct connection between our internal state and our energy and the measurable performance of our teams and how they influence each other?
That's a great question. And the way I like to start by answering that question is I basically say, have you ever been around someone that's feeling down or just in a bad mood or it has a certain vibe to it? Then are you around someone that has a happier, more upbeat, positive energy? It feels a certain way. So all human beings have an ability to feel other people's energy. We just, again, don't talk about it. So when you look at that from a leadership's perspective, if you have a leader that is down and in a crabby mood constantly, that's probably not going to be as motivating for the team members. When you have a leader that has a positive, upbeat attitude and energy, there's a ripple effect. So the energy spreads outward and literally gets on people. So it helps ignite the team to work more purposefully and from their hearts. That's what I've witnessed. And I actually have a perfect example of this, of how it equates to financial performance. A good friend of mine, Ray, he is a branch manager for a company out in Walnut, and he took over this branch. And when he took over the branch, it had been struggling a little bit with its numbers or maybe stagnant. He went through one of my trainings and brought in those techniques into his office. He also had a natural positive heart-centered energy, I will
Mhm.
say that, but he also implemented some of these techniques. His revenue, and he says that anyone that needs to know can look at his spreadsheets, increased by 200%.
Wow.
His revenue did. So when you have a leader that's making people feel unmotivated, not listened to, not heard, not seen, it reflects in the numbers. When someone comes there with an energy that has a more upbeat, positive energy that people feel heard, seen, and acknowledged and appreciated, it literally translates to numbers. So it's pretty exciting.
It's funny how so many people in leadership, in my opinion, overcomplicate things because we go, oh, this person isn't trained. They don't have all the skills I need. I make this big wish list of skills. They're not doing these things. And we're like looking up here, but really we're just not paying attention to the human factor in all of it. And it's so simple. Maybe it's not simple. In theory, it's simple to say, hey, if we treat people as human beings, if we make them heard, if we take care of their energy, if we're aware of their energy, all of these things that you just said, which there is a perfect financial example of why it works, simply taking care of the person, taking care of their energy is an easy first step instead of trying to jump all the way up here and going, oh my gosh, how do I redesign everything we're doing to go get them this skill instead of let's just make sure they're happy and they're taken care of and they're heard and they're
Exactly.
seen.
Exactly. You just hit the nail on the head. So we are stuck in our minds, and the mind is what complicates things. The heart, you used the perfect word, simple. The heart actually simplifies things and makes things simple. It's totally polar opposite energy. The other thing that you said, which was perfect, is that companies are constantly overthinking and looking outside to fix problems. The mind also wants to fix problems. So it does overcomplicate it. They're drowning in data and there's always fear underlying that. They're looking at their spreadsheets. How can I fix this? The funniest part is they're not realizing that the solution is within,
Mhm.
not only within themselves. And I'm talking about a leader that is self aware and has done the work, so to speak, on themselves with maybe a therapist or a life coach, has cleared their energy field, so to speak, of trauma or any kind of negative energies that's impacting their energy field. That makes them a better leader. It has a profound effect on numbers. And to your point, leaders, it's so overcomplicated. People want to appear smarter than others. People want to be the one that thought of this great idea. It's not about that. It's about being a self aware, empathetic, compassionate human being so that you can feel what your employees need, what your clients need, what your customers need. It's
Right.
what we're talking about. We're talking about being human. So when I talk about heart centered, I'm talking about empathy, compassion, intuition. It's a different energy that we're not tapping into. And by the way, there's two different types of intelligences. There's IQ and EQ. And what we're talking about, IQ is what we're tested on in school, data, facts, all that stuff. We spend an enormous time building our head and our brain muscle
Right.
with data and facts. We spend virtually no time. I can say this in school, virtually no time increasing and teaching emotional intelligence. So that's basically what this training does in a fun way, but it teaches people how to be emotionally connected to their company, to their employees, to their team members, to their families, even. This helps in the personal lives as well.
Yeah, and it's so important that you do that because I'll take it a step further. Yes, we don't teach any EQ things in school, and I'm a firm believer that you can be born with high EQ, but EQ is also this muscle that you can build over time. And the issue I have today is that in the corporate world, in the professional world, we allocate EQ to soft skills. And soft
Yes.
skills, and even the name soft skills, still implies that it's optional. It's a nice to have. But so often, and especially today, and the way things are going, probably especially into the future, soft skills are going to be so much more and are so much more necessary and not these optional skills that if we have the time to build these skills into people, we will do it. And if not, so be it.
Absolutely. My gosh, you just hit another nail on the head. I have a perfect example for this, but you're
Right.
absolutely right. When people say emotional intelligence or heart centered energy, they think it's wishy washy and they don't understand the importance of it. And I literally just had a video call. I just wrote an article about this because I was taken aback because I've been out of the corporate world for about 5 years. I
Mhm.
retired about 5 years ago. And I've been not having that energy on a daily basis anymore. So I go on this video call. I'm telling this company about the training, and the energy that was coming back at me was palpable, egoic energy. And the women had scowls on their face before I even opened my mouth and explained what this was. They already were looking at me with daggers,
Wow.
literally. So at the end, I just felt this energy as an empath. You don't have to be an empath to feel it. It just, there was something there. So I called the woman who had seen me speak at a conference, by the way, and really wanted me to
Yeah.
bring this into their company. I said, I just want to let you know that energy on the call is actually what I'm teaching to shift. That energy is not going to be good in your company. And sure enough, she says, number one, the procurement person that I was talking to that had the scowl on her face thought that it was wishy washy, it wasn't strong enough, that people weren't going to resonate with it. Number one. Funny thing is that it's going to shine a spotlight on her behavior. So she's the one that doesn't want it because the ego within her doesn't want to have a light shined on it. Then the woman explained to me that they have been having issues within her department, surprise, where they can't bring emotionally intelligent people that are great candidates into her team because she's going to chew them up and spit them out. And I said, at what point do you look at this person as the problem? So
Right.
it is absolutely what I've experienced throughout my career, and it's predominant. That energy, unfortunately, is predominant in most companies.
Yeah. So I think you brought us to a good place. So we've talked so far about this heart centered energy and the empathy and the empath and this EQ. How does that differ? And then how do we use that to overcome that egocentric energy that you just gave the example of? Because I think there are a lot of those toxic cultures, a lot of these things that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis where they may have a leader that is so into their ego. And I think as we talk through this, people go, oh, yeah, that's what I feel. There's just that energy that screams and emits from that person's ego.
Another nail hit on the head. That's exactly what I teach in the training is ego. So as much as I speak about the heart-centered energy, the counterpart to it, the way I teach, the counterpart to that is the ego. And it is the biggest obstacle to companies in general.
Right.
And I have a big surprise for all the audience because everybody that's thinking of all the bosses and coworkers that have a huge ego, we all have an ego. But that's the secret.
Right.
We all have an ego within us. We also all have heart energy. And the way I explain it, the way I can feel it, is that we're out of balance. So if you mentioned muscle earlier, and I
Mhm.
love that you said that because I look at the mind and the heart as muscles, which
Right.
they are. So the mind, if you think of how much we've been putting data and facts and focusing attention or energy on it, it is about the size of the Incredible Hulk. It's overdeveloped, it's bulging. That's our ego. That's the
Yeah.
egoic mind. It's bulging. Okay. Then, if you look at the heart muscle, it's this little scrawny, weak little thing that has not been developed. So,
Mhm.
this is what the problem is in corporate is that the ego energy is overriding the heart centered energy, and the ego energy by nature is destructive. It's defensive. It's the part of our brain that hasn't evolved. It is literally the same brain that is in protection and survival mode. So if this sounds familiar to people in corporate, it's my domain, it's protective. I don't want people in my space. There's no collaboration. It's everyone's the enemy.
Yep.
Just as that call, I was the enemy before I even opened my mouth. There's judgment on how someone looks, there's fixating on external. It's unevolved, and we've got to get past it.
I agree. And it's something that a lot of people fear definitely drives a lot of things. Obviously, the people who are afraid of that leader with the ego. But as you said, it's the part that hasn't evolved and it's that protection system because that person is afraid of what could happen if they become a good team member, if they let people in, if they let all of this happen. And so I really feel like as we talk through this, having that heart center energy isn't just a positive thing all around, but it helps overcome that fear that exists.
Absolutely. And fear energy, the way I explain it energetically, fear energy or mind energy by nature is contractive. So I try to explain like how it feels. It feels contractive. So when you think I can feel it as an empath when I walk into companies, I can tell right away if there's contractive fear energy within the company because there's what's called the collective energy within the company. And that
Right.
collective energy is the sum of all the energy fields. And that to me is what culture is. So you can feel when there's an enormous amount of fear, which is common in most companies. There's fear of financial performance, there's all these fears going on. When you come into a company that has heart centered, expansive energy, it literally feels different. And I love to tell this story, if I may,
Yeah,
because
of
I
course.
just went to Australia last July and I have been obsessed with Canva. I don't know if it's Canva, but it's the software
The
that you can
website?
design.
Yeah.
Yes, it's incredible. And I love it. I use it. I use it for all of my designs. And I tell all my clients to use it. And I could feel that this company was heart centered. I could just feel it. And I tried to reach out, blah, blah, blah. I ended up flying to Australia, flying through Sydney, found out they were headquartered in Sydney.
Wow.
And I said, I just have to go feel the energy there. I just have to. So I fly, my friend's picking me up. We're supposed to be driving all the way down to Canberra. But I said, can we please just stop by Canva? I just want to see. I was almost like a groupie. I just wanted to feel the energy. I walked into their front desk and instantly you could feel it. Literally, the people at the front desk had the biggest smiles on their face, genuinely happy to see me. They have no idea who I am. And
Wow.
they're like, how can we help you? It was such a contrast to what I typically feel from front desk employees. Usually,
Right.
front desk employees are fixated on what they're doing. They look up, they barely acknowledge you. It was an evolved heart centered energy. And guess what?
Wow.
Their company was started by a woman, Melanie Perkins, who literally listened to her intuition, followed it, totally heart centered, kept pursuing it. It has grown to, I believe, like $26 billion.
Wow. That's awesome.
So if anyone doesn't understand what I'm talking about, I like to use these because I know how executives think.
Yeah.
They need numbers. They need the metrics. They need the KPIs. I get it. They want to throw those acronyms out and feel important and they don't want to make a mistake. How about you feel into what I'm saying? Does it feel true?
Yeah.
There's what I call inner resonance. And when you say keep it simple, the simplest way to bypass the mind is to feel into it. Does it feel true?
Yeah.
Usually, yeah, that's gonna steer you down a pretty fun path.
It will. And everybody's just so blinded by metrics. And a lot of them are output measures that you eventually get to, but how you get there is different. And sometimes some of the things that you do to get there are not metric based things. They're things that you can't necessarily put your eyes on, but you can put your other senses on and you can
You can
feel.
put your feeling exactly, and you just mentioned something that again, I have to say, I teach about what I've actually deemed holistic decision making. So what it is a balance of data and heart. So again, what I'm talking about, I'm not saying we don't need the mind. Obviously, we need mind energy. We just have an overabundance of it.
Yep.
So if you think of it in percentages, I equate it to we're probably 85% in our head and 15% of our heart, and that's on a good day, might even be lower than that. But what I'm trying to do is theoretically reduce the mind energy and
Mhm.
increase the heart energy. So when you have it in balance, that's the key. So
Right.
when you make a decision from that balanced, evolved place, holistic decision making, you're using both data and your intuition. By the way, I hate to ruin people's idea of data, but data and errors happen.
Yeah.
It's not always exactly true. So look at the data, cool, let's look at it, but then let's feel into the decision. Can we take a step back, look at a bigger picture, and feel into what's the right decision for us?
And the thing about data is it doesn't tell the whole story. It tells part of the story, but a lot of times we then use our mind energy and our experience and our probably unconscious bias to jump to the conclusion of what the data is trying to tell us instead of having the data as a starting point and then understanding, is it an issue with multiple different root causes? Is it an energy issue? Even if it's a personnel issue, is it a energy, morale, people not feeling valued issue that's leading to that, which then leads to the data that we're evaluating?
Which won't show up on a report, by the way.
Right,
So
exactly.
that is exactly my point. What do you feel? Put the reports away. It's so funny because I just went to a conference where there were speakers speaking, and this one speaker literally was showing so much data on the screen, you couldn't even see a word. It was literally, and they were so proud of this research that I was so overwhelmed and no one was connecting to what they were saying
Right.
because it was overwhelming. That's the energy I see in companies that executives get so from fear, they don't want to make a mistake. So they're looking at this data as if it's putting it on a pedestal. Yes, it serves a purpose, but you got to tap into your other skills,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
soft skills.
Yeah, the soft
Yeah.
skills, the
Yeah.
necessary skills. I'm gonna
Yes.
start a petition to rename that to the necessary skills instead of the
Oh, I
soft skills,
like
right?
it. Yes.
If we could go back to Canva, I love the Canva example. So you have a company like that pretty much is doing everything right, really bringing that balance to the heart energy and the mind energy that we've talked. And you'd probably say that they're pretty well off, a good thrive from within, a nice balanced company from the energy perspective. Once you have a company or an organization or a culture that's made it to where they need to be and they're on the continuously improve over time, but they're there, what are some of the indicators that they're starting to move back into the wrong direction? And what can
Ooh,
they do
that's a
about it?
great question. That's a great question. Really what you want to look at is what does heart-centered energy do for the company? It increases communication skills. So people are openly speaking their truth from a heart-centered place. So if it starts falling into more egoic energy, you will start seeing the communication stopping. There's not as much directly speaking to people because people by nature are afraid of confrontation. So even on performance reviews, I always say this also equates, you need to be honest with people that you're not doing anyone a favor by telling it because it's much easier for you to tell them they're doing great. The energy feels good. But being
Right.
honest is what the most important thing is. So the communication is one of the first things that I see start to slipping. It's also, oh my gosh, the energy in meetings. If the energy starts feeling like I'm just doing this song and dance because I want everyone to see how great I am and all. That's not a productive meeting. Productive meetings are collaborative. Put the reports down. Let's talk. What do you see? That's more heart centered versus this dog and pony show that you see that people want to show off. So those are some indicators. Defensiveness to me is one of the biggest negative energies that you can have in a company. Meaning if you are talking to a coworker and they instantly get defensive, that's the ego. You
Mhm.
can't really work with that because they're protecting themselves. And the other thing it does is it covers mistakes because the ego, again, is protective. It doesn't want to look like it's made a mistake. Heart centered is secure and it says, I'm really apologize. I made a mistake. Bring it to the attention as soon as possible. And let's figure out how to fix it collaboratively, as opposed to let's hide it. I used to tell my team the worst thing you could ever do is to hide something because
Right.
it grows. It grows in the dark, so to speak. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers that, but that shows the different nuances to the different types of cultures. Now, I don't know Canva. I'm literally just saying from the reception desk that I could feel. And then, by the way, they had me go to their cafe next door, and that same energy was in the cafe. You could feel it. The guy found out I was from America. They wanted to give me a book for free that was written by one of their employees, by the way, that they were supporting. He left the
Wow.
company, and it's just such a supportive, collaborative energy. That's what attracts abundance. That's what I'm talking about. So I don't know the inner workings. I can't say that, but I can say what I actually felt, and it was incredible.
That's awesome. Hey, a lot of times it's that first moment of truth you have there that really gives you an idea of how that is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah,
No, I
I was
think,
going to say it's my intuition, and I'm pretty intuitive. I can feel it probably is affecting their whole company culture.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think you did answer it and you got me started on another kind of branch of that topic. And so once that happens, and a lot of times, even with the strongest cultures and the strongest companies, it starts possibly moving in the wrong direction when all of their systems and the resiliency are really tested. And that's a lot of times in these high stress environments, which seems to be more often than not these days, sadly. But when you have those high stress environments and things starting to head that way, what are some of the in the moment things that the leaders themselves, assuming that they are self aware and notice it, that they can do to steer the ship and right the ship back to where they were?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Being self aware is one of the first things. That's the first step. The biggest thing that I explain, the easiest thing that you can do to regulate your stress is really simple. It's taking a really conscious deep breath, and actually probably three if you can. And the funny thing is, you'll notice that your mind in the moment will tell you, you don't have enough time to do that. It's not time to do that because it doesn't want you to do that. It doesn't want you to pull energy away from it. But actually, I've timed it, takes less than a minute.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure people have 1 minute in a highly stressful situation. And I also encourage people to put their hand on their heart and close their eyes and literally take three conscious deep breaths. I literally do it in rooms and people don't even know how to take a deep breath. We're so contracted. I'm like, let's practice really taking a good deep breath. And that calms your system down and it makes you more present.
I love that. I can't remember what book I read it in, but there's a book that refers to that as a meta moment. And you just take that meta moment, no matter what's going on, the world's falling apart around you. And it's like in the movies where everything's going on all around them. And then all of a sudden everything slows down and they close their eyes and they take that deep breath and it gives them that moment of clarity of what they need to go do. And as iconic as that is from movies and everything, it helps in person. And like you said, with so much going on, I barely have time to go to the bathroom and eat my lunch and do all these things. So how could I even just stop and take a breath and recenter myself? But it is so important to do that.
And the mind is so sneaky, by the way. The mind likes its driver's seat position. The mind has been in the driver's seat, doesn't want to go in the back seat. Because you can imagine it doesn't want you to take a deep breath. It doesn't want to have you do this. So it will create lies. So it will create the lie that you do not have time to do that, but you do.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to overcome that. And a lot of times it's a block that part of your mind out and just do it. And if it doesn't
Well,
work, then fine.
yeah,
But
it,
most of the time will.
and that's the goal of this training is to plant the seeds. The first step to change is awareness. And we're just bringing this out for people to understand how it works and simple ways to do it. This is a marathon that we're running, not a race. This takes daily practice. But if you can practice in your daily life with your spouse or someone that really triggers you, which I'm still working with, just getting in the moment, and that's when you can then bring it to your team members. So this is not just a isolated to work thing. This is a life way of living life.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with the change part because so often people, especially in today's age, they like that immediate gratification. So, yes, Allison's telling me this has to work. And then I stop and I take one breath and it doesn't really change anything. I'm like, that's garbage. That's not going to
That's your
work.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how it works. And I always liken it to losing weight. I go and I start dieting and I exercise. Guess what? I'm not going to lose 10 pounds after the first day. But so often people
Exactly.
are like, oh my God, it didn't work. I guess I'll just stop doing that and go back to my normal habits. You have to accept the fact that if you were trying to change, put forth the effort and allow yourself to do that work. And they always say it takes what, 21 days to break an old
Mhm.
habit and start a new habit. I've seen those
I
numbers
love that.
change depending on what you have. But yeah, it takes time. It doesn't take one day, it doesn't take 1 hour. You have to stick with it.
And yet, it can change the energy within a company very quickly. This is the
Right.
funny thing, and I'll share this really quickly, but I just wanted to share that I did the training for one company that had a notorious, what I call negative Nelly, one of those employees that just purposely want to spread negative energy. There's
Mm.
a whole reason for that. Hurt people, want to hurt other people. I have compassion. They're probably hurting inside, but I also don't want that in my company. So
Right.
I did the training. It shifted the next day. So, as much as
Wow.
we're talking about it does take long, it shifted the next day. The woman came in a more positive, upbeat energy because she got embarrassed. She knew that this was shining a spotlight on maybe how she had been acting and didn't think people noticed.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see. Yeah,
It is, and it's important to understand the little shifts because everybody, and I think what I was referencing before was everybody's looking for the big shift. I lost this much weight. The energy completely changed. Our culture went from not healthy to completely healthy overnight. And when that big change doesn't happen, everybody wants to give up. But they don't look at those little things like you said. Just because something's going to take a little time to happen doesn't mean you didn't get a win. The goal I always say is try to be 1% better tomorrow than we are today. And
absolutely.
latch onto it. That person came back, the energy shifted a little bit in the right direction, and then the next day it's going to continue doing that. But you got to stick with it to get it to where you want to be.
Exactly. And using the ego analysis. So remember, we're all in our egos. So reducing it even a little bit is going to make an enormous impact on the culture. It truly is because the predominant energy in companies is ego. So if we teach the more people that learn this, it spreads like the ripple effect. So when you have one team, it can even start with one team of leaders. That can have a significant impact on the company culture. That's
No,
what's exciting.
it is, and you're spot
Yeah.
on. So, Allison, before we wrap up, is there any final thoughts that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, couple things. Number one, I wanted to just explain because I know the name of my training is called the Evolve training, which is that's how it's pronounced. I write it a little uniquely. EVOL is in all caps, which is symbolic, which is love backwards, by the way. That's symbolic of the heart energy. And then I have the ampersand because again, we need both. And then the ved is actually symbolic of the mind energy. And I have that in lowercase. So in order for a true shift to happen, both in companies and in the world, we need a predominance of heart energy. So we do need 51% for the math people and 49% mind. So that's why Evolved is written that way. I also wanted to mention this because this always comes up and it didn't in our, which I love this because I love this conversation, but I want to mention AI really quick. I mentioned the two different intelligences. We've got IQ and EQ. So there's also now a third intelligence in quotes, which is artificial intelligence. And most companies are jumping on the AI bandwagon. And AI has a certain energy. So it has a robotic and transactional energy. Now, I know it's great for certain things, but I never advocate to use AI in customer service situations. People are craving human interaction, and AI is only going to increase that craving. So, companies that get this and get that they can create a competitive advantage, I call it a heart centered advantage by increasing the heart within their customer service folks, it's a game changer because people are going to start getting, they already are getting tired and exhausted of that
Mhm.
energy, of the artificial energy. So, not totally knocking AI, it's a balance again. We want a balance between IQ, EQ, and AI. That's the kind of hidden formula that's for success.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of times we think it's either or. It can be and that ampersand, but we have to
Yes.
be intentional about the balance. So that's great.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to remind everybody this is Alison Kermode. I will have all of her information in the podcast episode, the description of the podcast episode, and the posting that we do. You can like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast found on all podcast platforms that we have. It's my Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Leading Quarters. And you can email me with any questions or ideas you may have for future episodes, any questions for myself, or if you want to get in touch with Alison and learn more about energy and the heart-centered leadership, which you just got a taste for today, I can get you all in touch as well. You can contact me at leadingquarters@gmail.com. But Alison, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about this again, bringing it back to what we started with. This is energy all around us all day, every day. And I am just so thankful you've been able to come here and shine light on something that surrounds us, but we just never talk about or acknowledge on our day-to-day basis. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I want to also express gratitude. That's also a heart-centered aspect, right? And so I just want to thank you again and all of your listeners. This has been an enormous opportunity for me. Thank you.